As we mentioned many times, Cairo is the language used by Starknet. And today we will deep dive and learn Cairo. We will have some hands-on session where we will code, and we will also know a bit more information about it. And it's going to be more a session about Cairo as a language. Okay, so this is the third session. Tomorrow, later today, we will have a session on Starknet and then a session on frontend. And now it's the third session. Okay, so we will be talking about the history of Cairo. So the meaning, where the name comes from, how it was, how it started. Then we will talk about field elements. So it's like a very core element of cryptography, and it has a big role in Cairo. Then we will we will do the Starknet exercises, and then I will give you a homework, and there's gonna be some live coding. And today you will not have any quiz, so you will not have to answer the quiz. You. Okay, so Cairo is actually a confusing name because many things are called Cairo. It's a city in Egypt. Like, what's happening? So let me clarify all of this. So Cairo originally comes from the name of the computer architecture. So the computer architecture is a CPU H.E.R, which is algebraic intermediate representation. It's a CPU architecture that was first created by Starknet to be optimized for validity proof. So optimized for the computation used for the ZK proof. So regular architecture is more optimized for everyday computation, like basic computation. But to create the proofs, the cryptographic proof, you do different kind of computations. And so you can create a specific CPU that's going to be optimized for that, so that it runs faster, basically. Okay, so that's the name of the CPU architecture. Then the low-level bytecode that is executed by this CPU is called Cairo assembly. So that's the low-level bytecode. And the high-level language in which you will code today is also called Cairo. So Cairo is actually many things. It's the high-level language that we will code in today. It's the assembly language that is so in which the low-level language is compiled into, and it's the CPU architecture. And it's also the capital of Egypt. Yeah. So many things. And yes, there was an old implementation of Cairo, which was Cairo 0, which you might sometimes see. Especially if you use ChatGPT, it very often gives some Cairo 0 answers. So yes, that's very depreciated now. There's still a few pieces of software that are written in Cairo 0, but basically it's depreciated. So yes, a bit of history. So in 2018, Starknet published the Stark white paper. So the Stark white paper is the proper definition, the formal definition of the Stark proofs. So it's a piece of cryptographic explanation. Like it's a paper about the proof and defined in a very formal way. And then in 2019, they started StarkX, which is actually a software as a service that's used to be used to not directly write Stark proof on your own. So instead of writing your Stark proof every time you want to do zero knowledge, they started building a first version of a software as a service that was being used to use the stacks, but it was hard-coded and it was only possible to do very basic things like very recurrent capabilities, such as what you need to trade token, and what you need to make it verifiable and settled on Ethereum. So very basic capabilities. Yes. Yes, of course. Should I make a pause or when?
Hey, Gian, are you there?
Hey, yes,
Okay, cool.
I
Probably if you
interrupt.
can provide um some support before starting really the session. We just saw that you are in, so that's why.
Okay, yeah, sure. I didn't want to interrupt the session. That's why I didn't just like it was also nice listening to Charlotte talk as always. Yeah, hi everyone. Just a quick introduction. My name is Gyan and I work as a DevRel with the Starknet Foundation. Our team is called the Ecosystem Team. And yeah, like I think at this point in time, it's a really good time to enter the Starknet ecosystem because we are still quite early. We You can see that there are a few products that are doing really well. Just quite recently, I think few companies raised their funding rounds and they have been building some great consumer crypto products. But there is so much to explore and so much to build in the Starknet ecosystem that if you're entering now, I think it's a great time, first of all. So this base camp has come at a really good time for you because we do have a lot of initiatives that are lined up just after. I can give you some alpha. We are going to have run a hackathon, a virtual hackathon around January. And whatever you learn today, you could potentially, continue building and build something in the hackathon, be able to win prizes. We run something called hacker houses, which happen 3 or 4 times a year, where you can apply to come physically to a location and hack with us. Yeah, and bunch of other interesting initiatives. We also have seed grants. So once you have something that you build and you have a proof of concept, you can also apply for a seed grant of up to $25,000. So a lot of interesting things that we are working at the foundation to make sure that your journey, as you enter into the Starknet ecosystem and as you kind of come out as a successful entrepreneur, we are able to support your journey via different initiatives. And yeah, that's just about the Starknet ecosystem overall, and why it is a good time to build in the Starknet ecosystem. From a women of Starknet perspective, I know that overall in general in Web3 we do need a lot more women to come in, not just as developers but just as business folks who are thinking about the bigger picture. How do you build products that are inclusive? How do you build products that are used by the entire globe? Right. And then the second is, I think, just from a women of Starknet perspective, the Starknet ecosystem in itself does not have that much diversity at this point in time. And having more women come in, build products, build businesses on Starknet is something that we are very keen to support. Of course, we are, supporting individual communities like H.E.R. And other things that are happening. But we also, from a women of Starknet perspective, we are trying to bring together underrepresented folks who are trying to build on Starknet. What kind of support do they need? What kind of things can we offer? And how can we really help you sort of do what you enjoy the most doing, be it building businesses, working as a developer, or just in general. So I think Celine has shared the Telegram group link with you as well, where you could join and just share your questions, doubts, or in general if you have any suggestions as well, in terms of how we can just improve the diversity ratio in the ecosystem. Do let us know. I'm also happy to get on a one-on-one call to understand if you think there are any blockers and such. And yeah, that's all I just wanted to share. I don't want to take too much time from you folks for this session. And one of the just one last thing that I want to share. When I started with my journey, which was 2020 to is that in the beginning, I feel like Cairo can be a bit overwhelming. At least when it was Cairo 0 back then, it was extremely overwhelming. Now it is much, much easier. It is very similar to Rust. But at the end of the day, I feel like a programming language is just a construct, right? You treat it as you are learning any other new language. When you're learning a new language, how do you try to learn a new language? You try to speak to people, right? You try to read in that language, you try to write in that language, and that's exactly what you want to do when you're learning any other new language. You are trying to write code in that language, try to practice that language, try to read more code. Reading is a very sort of, I think, a very underestimated exercise, right? People don't really like to read code, but reading code gives you an understanding of how the structure of the code is. So, uh, be it any programming language, don't feel overwhelmed by the programming language. Just treat it as another language that you're learning in order to build something interesting, in order to explore something interesting, in order to learn something interesting, right? So, yeah, that would be just like my one tip, that don't worry about this being like, hey, there is another programming language in Web3 that I have to learn to just build on Starknet. Don't think of it as a programming language. Think of it as a construct, right? That you are just you are taking in the construct, and then you are trying to build something. So to build different structures, you need different things. Similar to that, to build on Starknet, you need Cairo. And one advantage of learning Cairo is that if you are not a Rust programmer, if you're not a Rust developer, you will actually also get to learn Rust, because the similarities between Cairo and Rust are very, very high, right? So yeah, take that with the, I would say, like, that would be my one advice. If you're learning Cairo, and if you anytime feel overwhelmed, then don't hesitate to ask questions. Even small questions, basic questions, you just put it in the group. Hey, this is not working, or this doesn't run as expected, and we are happy to help you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope this was useful. And yeah, best of luck for your base camp. I hope it goes really well.
Thank you for your support, Gian. It's always great to have your testimony. I don't know the term, and to inspire people, because you are as well a woman and you are at Starknet, so it's great for us. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And yeah, have a nice day to you. And
Thank you. Have
let's
a nice
learn
day, everyone.
about
Yeah.
Cairo right now.
Yes, yes, please enjoy, and I will see you all
Yes,
shortly.
thank you, Gian, for all the information about the ecosystem and the opportunities. It's very good to know, and also to motivate everyone before starting the session.
Yes.
I think that's a great motivation for everybody to know what's next. And yes, and also that we are supporting women in the ecosystem. That's also very good to. I mean, there's only women in front of me, so so it's very good to know for everybody in the room. Yes. So let's continue. So I was covering the history of Cairo. So I will go back to 2018. So 2018, the Stark paper got released. I feel like there is no transition to this. It's not super smooth, but let's go. So yes, the publication of the Stark paper defining the Stark proofs was published by Starkware. Then in 2019, they realized that writing circuits by the end manually every time it's a lot of time, and sometimes like you need same circuits for same things, so you can actually reuse some of the circuits. So some of the proof that you are like writing by hand, you can actually reuse them because they are like used for a lot of things. So for example, everything that is related to token transfer, it can be reused from one application to another. So they created StarkX, which was the first software as a service created by Starkware. And yes, but that was very basic. That was the polynomial constraints that were hard-coded so that you can reuse them easily. But it wasn't super flexible. It was mainly for for the main recurring needs. So it wasn't a programming language. And then in 2020, they created Cairo, which was the previous version, the Cairo 0 version, which was a programming language. So now you can stop writing the circuit by hand, and you can actually have a language that is going to do that for you, and you just have to focus on coding. You just have to focus on the logic, on what you want to do. And the circuits, the polynomial circuit, the Stark, it's not your business. You don't have to focus on that. It's done for you. So that was a very huge step. And then in 2021, the Cairo white paper was published. So the Cairo white paper is a paper about the architecture of Cairo. It's about Cairo as a language. So it's a very, very good paper to read. It gives you a lot of information about the CPU architecture, about actually it explains a lot of things, and it's a very good material to read. It's a bit more advanced, but take your time, and you can read it sometimes, then abandon, and then go back to it, and back and forth. You will go through it, and it's actually a very good resource. And then in 2021, Starknet was created. So Cairo was finally used to write smart contracts. Starknet was created as a blockchain. And in 2023, there was the release of the version of Cairo that we are going to see today. So we are going to learn the version of Cairo that was released actually last year. And it's a much better version than the first one. It's very similar to Rust. It's much easier to use, to understand, and it has much more capabilities as well. Okay, so now I'm gonna give you a little image. So Cairo is to Starknet what Python is to Django. So if you have used Django, it's to make a web with Python, but basically under the hood it's Python. It's just you have a small different syntax things, and you have to know how to use it for Django, but basically it's Python. And Starknet is the same. Basically, it's Cairo. It's a special case of Cairo. It's a special use of it. It has a few more syntax things that you have to learn to write smart contracts. But basically, Cairo is a general purpose language, and Starknet is one of the use case. It's you can view it like this. And today we will focus on Cairo. So as a general language, and tomorrow, no, actually later today, we will focus on Starknet and smart contracts, so the special use case of Cairo. Okay, so now we will talk a little bit about mathematics. Woohoo! So the field elements are very important mathematical concepts in cryptography and in ZK proof. It's a very, very big thing. It's the space in which you will define your everything. So it's the space that you use to make your definitions. And why is it important in Cairo? It's because the default data type in Cairo is the field element. So it's felt 252. So it's actually not U256. And when you use a U256, it's actually bigger than the felts. So you actually need two felts to store the U256. But basically, every time you code in Cairo, the default type is going to be felt. So a felt is a value that is in the you have a field. Oh, wait, that's hard to explain. So you have a field, a mathematical field in which the operation are expressed, and a field element is an item that is inside of that field. So for example, the maximum number here in for Cairo. It's P, and it's a very big number, as you can see on the screen. I'm not going to even try to say this number, but it's 2 to the power of 251 plus some things. So it has to be a prime number. That's why it's such a weird number and not a beautiful round number. So for a cryptographic purpose, it has to be a prime number, so that you can represent as much things, and also you can make sure that you have more variety and you don't always come down to the same numbers. So that's very important for cryptographic reason to have a prime number and a big one. So this is the value, and basically the felt element will be any value within this range. Okay, and then all operations are performed in this field. And because of that, a felt can overflow and underflow, which means that usually when you overflow, you will have an error and you will have, okay, that's underflow. But actually, because of the mathematical property of field operation, it can overflow because everything will be done mod this big number. So that's a problem when you do mathematics using felt. So for example, you can see a line here, an equation which is true. It's a true equation in field mathematics. So that's a problem. To solve that problem, you have signed and unsigned integers that are defined in the language. And so it's very important to use them and not use felt, which is the default data. You can use it if you know what you are doing. If you want to do like very specific things, you will need to use the felt. But for if you don't know what you're doing, the signed and unsigned integer are very safe to use, and they will not overflow, they will not underflow, and so they will limit this the problem that can occur with felt. So that's like a little bit of the cryptographic mathematics that you can see from the Cairo language. So it's very nice. It's like a little reminder that under the hood you're doing deep shit and you're doing intense mathematics, intense cryptography. Yes, so that's like the little peak of the iceberg here. Okay, so now we will see Starklings. So some of you in this room have actually been to the Starkling class like a few weeks ago. So you are already familiar with that. But what is Starklings? It's a learning resources to learn Cairo. It was created by Shrami. Shrami is actually part of the MOO. So he is in the MOO house. I will show you who Shrami is, so that if you have any question, he told me that he's very happy to answer any question. And yes, but we will use the version that was created by Damien, which is a web version, so it's easier. It's easier to do. So now it's your turn to work. So you have to go to Starkling app. Basically,